It's a fake. It's a deception to steal our money.
They want a cashless society, a digital cashless society, one world currency. They want rid of cash.
If that's not manipulation, wake up and smell the coffee.
You destroy, because that's what's happening before our eyes, Brian, you destroy the world economic system.
They're taking away our freedoms one bit, one step at a time.
The big legacy of what is happening now will not be to do with health long term, it will be economic.
I don't doubt that it's real. I don't doubt it's dangerous. I'm probably a target market, but I think it's a sleight of hand. Edward Griffin wrote about the Mandrake mechanism, where Mandrake's the magician. And so what the magician does, he has everybody so afraid of this thing called a virus, which I say is real, as they steal your money and they steal your wealth.
What I have been saying for the best part of 30 years is they are planning an enormous economic crash. And I've been saying it even more since 2008, because 2008 seemed a bit be a nightmare. The point I'm making is what they want is something that would make 2008 look like, you know, a Sunday school tea party.
Well, people are finally waking up that you cannot trust our own government.
This Hunger Games society, I've been saying this for a long time, is designed to have no small business, no even medium-sized business, globally, just gigantic corporations that control and produce everything.
I think people, as they sit in quarantine, as they lose their jobs or homes or pensions, their businesses and all this, I think they're waking up that they're being screwed. They've been screwed.
What this hysteria is creating is a situation unfolding by the hour worldwide that is destroying small business, family business, even medium-sized business, some even relatively big businesses too. It's destroying them. The big legacy of what is happening now will not be to do with health long term, it will be economic.
I knew it was coming, but I couldn't believe they'd actually quarantine people. This is a manufactured Great Depression when there was real unemployment. Now they have to manufacture unemployment. I mean, it's more frightening than I ever imagined. The people who really think it's about the virus, not the biggest cash heist going on behind their backs, they just can't see their money is being stolen via their money.
What happens to those people whose businesses collapse? What happens to all those people who were working for those businesses? What happens to them? They fall into the bottom of the Hunger Games society.
The problem is the poor and the middle class still have not got the message that gold and silver are God's money. Gold and silver have been here since the earth was formed. Your only counterparty is God, not the bank.
And what we're seeing now every day is this Hunger Games society coming closer and closer and closer because of what's being done in the name of protecting the people.
They're taking away our freedoms one bit, one step at a time.
You go deep enough into this system, they don't give a shit about the people. They don't give a shit about the elderly. The elderly are an excuse to impose the very society that I'm talking about.
You know, they don't like cash and they don't like gold because they can't control it. There's no serial numbers they can follow. But they can follow you and track your movements. Not that I'm a criminal, but they want to follow our movements and take our freedoms away by registering every crypto dollar, whatever they call it, and the central banks then control it.
They want a cashless society, a digital cashless society, one world currency. They want rid of cash.
It's a criminal operation. They've been stealing our wealth for years. That's my concern. And everybody thinks they're wonderful people. I mean, I don't doubt it's real, but it's blown out of proportion by the media. It's a fake. It's a deception to steal our money.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of the Aggressively Average podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing how this health crisis has turned 100% financial very quickly. We heard Robert Kiyosaki, the legendary author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, discussing how he thinks this isn't about a health crisis. He said it was a manufactured economic crisis. A lot of people in this community and a lot of financial pundits have already known that a massive financial collapse was on the horizon. And right now they're trying to use this health event as the excuse, as the reason for the inevitable that was going to come regardless. We all saw it coming with 2020 foresight. And now it has arrived. The only question is what will come out of the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, what they want is a cashless society so they can control everything, so they can continue to steal your money. Negative interest rates are on the horizon. We've seen Donald Trump talk about negative interest rates. There are other countries that have already started to implement negative interest rates, and it will be coming to a country near you. Ladies and gentlemen, I must say that no mainstream media outlet is covering this because they are a political arm of the people that are trying to control you, of the people that are trying to bring this in. Why are states still closed when so many people are suffering economically? Here in this podcast from Joe Rogan, with Dan Crenshaw as a guest, personally speaking, I find him to be a very reasonable man. He discusses how initially, when this first hit the United States, we had to execute a tactical retreat. We have retreated. We have analyzed the enemy being this health crisis. We see that it's not as bad as a lot of people said it could be. There are also a lot of sources stating that the infection rate is 10 to 50 times higher than what is publicly being stated, meaning that the death rate is much lower than the mainstream media statistics they're showing you. I also believe that they are artificially inflating the death count. Ladies and gentlemen, I think there's going to be a moment where all that comes out very soon. But until then, take it with a grain of salt. And I promise you, the truth will come out. And you will see the narrative continue to build. That the media was engaging in hyperbole. And guys, the reason I believe they are engaging in hyperbole is because they're trying to bring on a quote-unquote new world order of control, of surveillance, an Orwellian 1984-like society. And guys, what's truly crazy is that this aligns beautifully with this clip I'm about to play you from Jordan Peterson. Please take a listen and then watch the information that comes that I'm going to show you after this clip is played.
Before Hitler, started the concentration camps and went after things in a big way, is very, very concerned with the hygiene of the German people, and he did things like his first policy implementations were tuberculosis screening, and had people go around in vans and x-ray everyone to try to get rid of tuberculosis. It's like, let's get rid of tuberculosis. And then they started cleaning up the factory, so they'd, get rid of the bugs and the rats and sweep them all out and plant flowers out front. It was like a beautification campaign, and they used Zyklon B to do that. And Zyklon B was the gas that was used in the concentration camps. It's like, that's quite interesting, that movement from insects and rats to human beings, and that there was an intermediary there, which seemed to be mental hospitals, because the next thing they did was go and clean up the people that the Nazis, Hitler in particular, but the Nazis in general, felt were inferior or contemptible or something like that. And like contempt and disgust seem to go very tightly together. And contempt, that's a vicious emotion.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pause this right there so that you can understand, let it marinate, and draw parallels to what's going on in the world today. Specifically in the United States, we see that there is contempt between the political left and the political right. It seems like a lot of left-wing countries are staying closed down. This has turned very political extremely quickly. It's no longer about facts. It's no longer about being reasonable. It's about you versus me, my team versus your team. Guys, it's about the 99.99% of people versus the 0.0001% of people trying to oppress us. At the end of the day, it's not left and right. It's about the people versus the tyrants. That's only the fact of the matter. We are all on the same team. Divide and conquer is what they want, is what they've used, and it's worked. Pay attention, because what's going on today is a precursor to what occurred in Germany. History does not, and I repeat, does not always repeat, but it often rhymes, and people fail to learn their lessons.
The transformation and purity campaign of Hitler just extended and extended and extended and extended and extended, and God only knows where it would have ended. And I also think that's why he was a worshiper of fire, because fire is a purifying substance, and the Nazis really used fire as a symbol of their movement, because Hitler would have these massive nighttime political rallies, with 150,000 people all put in perfect squares, with this massive background of fire and light. And, and it all seems to boil down to the fact that he was extraordinarily disgust sensitive, and that became a cardinal element of his political platform, and then that was associated with orderliness, and that, you can track it all the way down to the biology. And there was a paper published in PLOS One, which I should really put on the website, about a year ago. And unfortunately, I don't remember who published it, but they were looking at, let's say I assessed your political attitudes. I could do that, say, with an authoritarian scale, authoritarian belief scale, because authoritarianism has been studied quite a bit since the end of World War II. Nobody really knew what to do with it in relationship to personality. It doesn't matter. You can assess it, with a reasonable degree of accuracy. And these people they did two things. They did a cross-country survey and then within-country surveys. So you imagine if you were looking at a phenomena, you could look at the country level, US versus Canada, or you could go into the US and then you could look at a state level. And it's nice to do the analysis at both levels to see if it replicates itself across the two different conceptual strata. And what they found is mind-boggling. It's Nobel Prize-winning stuff as far as I'm concerned, is that the correlation between the prevalence of infectious disease in a locale and the degree to which authoritarian beliefs were held in that locale was about 0.7. It's like you never see that in the social sciences. That's higher than the correlation between IQ and grades, which is about as good as we ever get in terms of prediction. So it's like, really? It's that high? And one of the things that implies is that one of the ways to get rid of right-wing authoritarian attitudes, assuming that you want to get rid of such things, is through public health. It could easily be that the reason that we're all tilted fairly hard to the center and even to the left is that everybody's clean. We've got functioning sanitation. It's like, oh, don't have to worry about that anymore.
And here, ladies and gentlemen, it states that authoritarianism is a form of government characterized by strong central power and limited political freedoms, much like we're starting to see right now. And currently, we can see the correlation between authoritarian regimes and infectious diseases playing out, specifically, unfortunately, in left-wing states. California, New York, they have the strictest restrictions. Deservedly so, there are high infections, but that's besides the point. The point is that the governors and mayors of these states are being extremely oppressive. There are people, we as individuals, have to be able to make calculated risks. Calculated risks is a part of life. And having these restrictions imposed on us are killing small businesses. More people are suffering right now from the economic impacts of this black swan health crisis than from the crisis itself. I'm only telling you the fact of the matter. we see a lot of states opening back up. And this is what I mean when I say there's a lot of political tension between what should be taken from this point forward. Why does it have to be left and right? Why can't it be a human being making their own rational decisions? I'm not being insensitive. I'm very well aware that there are risks involved. Guys, Jordan Peterson in this video issued a stern warning. He's letting us know exactly what's playing out today. He didn't know about this Black Swan event, about this current crisis at the time of recording, but it shows itself to be extremely prophetic because history is repeating.
Anyways, so I gave you all that background because, you know, it's a tangled mess, the authoritarian personality issue. There's a sociological element to it, which is the disease element, and then there's the existential element that we've talked about in detail, where there seems to be also something about people's unwillingness to stand up for themselves and develop their own beliefs and adhere to the truth and to adopt authoritarian, you know, extremely rigid authoritarian belief systems and then go persecute people for them. And we don't know how to separate all those things out.
It's very true. We don't know how to separate all those things out. But I'm trying my best here. I'm trying to search for what is, not the propagated narrative. I hope each and every one of you guys are too. There was a moment in the last part of the clip where Jordan Peterson states that Hitler used fire as a type of quote-unquote purifying substance. Well, guys, we could see potential vaccinations as a purifying substance in today's society. And personally speaking, I'm not a fan. But there's a big difference with what I'm about to say. There's a difference between mandatory and there's a difference between having it for people to use willingly if they choose and if they're scared. If it's mandatory, then we have a problem because we don't know what's in it. But if it just exists and people are able to take it willingly, then we have a cure, a perceived cure, and that gets rid of the authoritarian regimes. That makes people and their personalities less authoritarian. That makes people more willing to go outside. That builds the narrative that the economy can open again. And guys, all I'm saying is we are in a critical moment in history because China already executed what they wanted to do with this crisis. This all stems back from the Phase 1 US-China trade deal and these trade tensions between the US and China. Trump and Xi Jinping have been going at it for a while now. And in this Phase 1 trade deal, China didn't want to sign it. They were forced to. But at the same time, right after they signed it, this is what happened. From Reuters, they're likely considering disaster clause in the Phase 1 bill with the United States due to this health crisis. They had this clause in the Phase 1 deal and they were waiting to use it. Ladies and gentlemen, I think they might have known how bad this was. I think they never really wanted to sign this trade deal. I think they did it for optics. Because shortly after, they built the narrative that they wanted to use the disaster clause. And what's crazy is the way they went about executing their authoritarian power over the people. It got rid of this. Ladies and gentlemen, there were protests going on. The people of Hong Kong, they were fighting. And what happened because of this health crisis? They got shut down very quickly. Because of this health crisis, they imposed stay-at-home orders. They forced people to do it. and then this movement stopped. It's currently still taking place here and there. I'm not a personal expert on it, but I see what I see. Ladies and gentlemen, this was very convenient for them. And while the information that we are exposed to today is hazy, it's full of half-truths, false narratives, and more apocryphal sources with agendas. Despite all of that, we could come to a rational assumption based on the facts that have occurred that China, the Chinese government, has won a lot from this crisis. I'm just saying, they don't care about their people. David Icke, in my introductory clip, stated that these oppressive regimes, they don't care. Because right now they have infinite levels of power. And this is getting extremely financial, extremely quickly. From Business Insider, they have started ranking citizens with a creepy social credit system. Here's what you can do wrong and the embarrassing, demeaning ways they punish them. This is how they punish their own people. They ban you from flying or getting on the train. They throttle your internet speeds. They ban you or your kids from the best schools. They stop you from getting the best jobs. They keep you out of the best hotels. They get your dog taken away. And you're being publicly named as a bad citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it goes. Already implemented. This is where it goes. And it's getting worse. The release of the first central bank digital currency is happening now. They're doing it now. The world is doing it as well. We've seen the United States, and I've spoken on my channel a lot about the United States having digital dollars in their stimulus bills. And while it hasn't been passed yet, it's been written. It's been drafted, meaning the technology is ready, on standby for launch. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, the company that created XRP, the cryptocurrency, which we believe is going to be the new one world currency. He has stated the US needs to step up their crypto regulations because China's ahead. We cannot fall behind. And that's a fact. Donald Trump will not allow them to get ahead. This is coordinated. This is synchronistic. This crisis, followed by the digitalization of currencies, is happening now. The narrative's been built on CNN. Cash can spread this black swan event. Ladies and gentlemen, I've already told you that so many places have called for no cash. The narrative has been built for not having cash anymore. This black swan event, this health crisis, is being used as an excuse to bring on a cashless society. We already see them trying to give people debit cards. Do you see the transition from paper to plastic? Right here from Market Watch, it states check your junk mail. 4 million Americans are getting their stimulus payments as prepaid debit cards, not checks. The U.S. Treasury Department and the IRS began sending out economic impact payments as prepaid debit cards last week. Ladies and gentlemen, almost 4 million Americans still waiting for their cut of the $2.2 trillion CARES Act can expect to get their stimulus money in the form of an EIP card as opposed to paper check. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, they are taking 100% full advantage of this crisis, giving people free money. That's what it is. It's free money in order for them to submit to their agenda. Right now, a cashless society is on the precipice of being launched. And this is the excuse. The stimulus is being used to subdue the public, to neuter people into submission. Say, good boy, good girl, take this money and watch us bring on the world we want. That's exactly how they play the game. It's atrocious, but you know damn well that's what they're doing. The people that watch this understand this perfectly. Not a single step of this crisis has not been taken advantage of. Not 1 second hasn't been capitalized on. The IMF, the World Bank, the Bank for International Settlements, what do they have to do with health? Nothing. But they've been tweeting about this Black Swan event a lot. The economic relief that they need to provide. How this Black Swan event has accelerated central bank digital currency adoption. That's only the fact of the matter. Check their Twitter pages and you'll see exactly what they're doing. They're building the narrative of them being an altruistic, for the people institution, when in reality, all they're doing is bringing on the cashless society agenda.
A great goal of this, and I've been saying this, when did I first write this? About 1993. They want a cashless society, a digital cashless society, one world currency, which has phenomenal implications for freedom. They want rid of cash.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I played you that clip from a London Real interview with David Icke is because the cashless society has been a narrative that a lot of people have spoken about. And this video specifically was banned off of YouTube. Why? Why is a video being banned off of YouTube? For no reason, apparently. Apparently, it's quote-unquote dangerous based on the subjective criteria used by these oligarch tech companies. They don't give reasons why they take it down. They just take it down because they don't think it's appropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, a common trend I've seen is that when a tech company takes a piece of media down, generally speaking, they are speaking the truth. That seems to be the common theme. The common theme is that if you speak the truth that goes against what the government agenda is, you get banned. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, in my video earlier today, I posted that Donald Trump is signing an executive order for social media companies after Twitter said they're going to fact check his tweets. Regardless how you feel about the man, I'm personally indifferent, but I understand exactly why he's doing it. Because all these institutions are factually based out of a left-wing state. A pretty far left state at that. We all know it. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, they're all guilty. And Twitter, right now, was trying to impose the subjective authority of what constitutes fact. Remember when YouTube did it? They say anything that goes against the mainstream narrative for this Black Swan crisis, this health event, is getting taken off. That's called censorship of the truth. I'm only telling you what is. Ladies and gentlemen, they'll say whatever they need to prevent it from coming out. But this cashless society, this is being rolled out in an accelerated rate. They want it. They need it. And anyone that tries to prevent it from happening, anyone that's onto them, anyone that's speaking a little too loudly, is going to get the boot off of these platforms. Watch. Watch what happens next. Because this has been in the works for years. And we are in a critical moment in history. A global, financial, and health climax. Where we could either go one way, we could go another. tyranny or freedom. But whatever happens next, there is no turning back. Ladies and gentlemen, I've stated time and time again on my channel that I believe XRP is the best hedge against the collapse of cash and the fiat currency system, because XRP will be the currency, the digital bridge asset to connect all the new central bank digital currencies. I provided the research on my channel day in and day out for a year now. And right now, it seems like we're reaching the moment in history when it's going to happen. From the IMF blog, it states how to make negative interest rates work. And they've planned this for over a year now. Negative interest rates have arrived. They will hit the US in short order. They need to go into negative territory because, frankly, there is no going back up. They are imploding the system. Central bank digital currencies allow them to implement negative interest rates beautifully. There's no going back. There's only hedging against it. There's only so much we the people could do. And personally, I have lukewarm emotions towards what I'm doing with XRP because I understand that XRP could be used to control us, most likely. But it allows me the opportunity to get extremely wealthy from it. And then, with that wealth, I can help people. That's only what we can do. We can project into the future, connect all the dots, put it all together, and make rational decisions. This is my rational decision. They need negative interest rates. They want it. And central bank digital currencies are how they're going to do it. XRP is how they're going to bridge all the central bank digital currencies. And this health crisis is the reason they're going to give the public to implement all of this. The clock is ticking. The time is now. If you're not ready, you're not ready. If you miss it, you miss it. And no one's going to care. Because this global financial paradigm shift has been in the works for years. And we're knocking on the door of the new world order. This is the Bearable Boy here. Thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of the Aggressively Average podcast. If you weren't doing so already, please follow my altcoin ratings and reviews course on Udemy in the description below. I posted 2 new lectures, and I'm about to post a swing trade execution I made yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, I really hope each and every one of you tune in to the next episode. I appreciate every single one of you. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
Yeah. It will never return to like it used to be. I thought the 80s, which I partook in, was like taking candy from a baby legitimately. It's easier now than it was in the 80s. I didn't think I'd live long enough to see that again. The greatest transformation of wealth in the history of the motherfucking planet is taking place, and 0.1% of the planet is participating. You don't have to be rich to be taking advantage of this. This was the beginning of the greatest transformation of wealth the world has ever fucking seen since World War II. See, I know what he was going to do. I know what he's going to do now. And he hasn't even got started. Now, what are you going to tell your kids and your grandkids 25 years from now when they say, gee, Daddy, gee, Grandpa, what were you doing other than having your thumb up your big fucking ass during the greatest transformation of wealth in the history of the world? What were you fucking doing? Fuck all, nothing. That's what most of you will tell them, your grandchildren and your children. It's never going to get any better than this, kids. This is the, as I said on YouTube, the eye of the perfect motherfucking storm. This is it.